All right. Hi, everyone. Jumping on live or watching the replay. Happy full moon in Virgo. It was this morning, a few hours ago, but we felt like we wanted to come on and talk about this. So, as always, if you're watching the replay, feel free to put any comments wherever you're watching the replay, and we'll try to get back to you. And if you're here live, feel free to add comments, interact, and respond, and do whatever you want or ask questions.
Ashley is here. Christina doesn't have her phone; it's reloading, so I'm the one who has to see the comments. So Ashley is here, and
Hi,
Ruth is
Ashley.
here. Ruth Redeemed is here.
Yay. Hi, Ruth. So happy to see you all here. All of you. I love this. All right. So, as usual, I would say this is becoming our usual now. Which one is this? I think it's maybe our fourth new moon, full moon live that we were doing. We've
I
done
think
some other
so.
lives as well, but it's amazing. And so, as usual, we'll do some astrology, we'll do some gene keys, we'll do some Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, and everything that we can think about that this brings up, any topic. And if you have something that's really coming up for you, it's probably the full moon bringing it up, right? And so feel free to put that in the chat as well if that's something that you want to share or that we can elaborate on, or anything like that.
And Angela is here. Angie, I think you call her Angie. Angela.
Yes. Yes, Angie or Angela. Or Angie. Yes. Hi, lovely. So good to see you here. Okay, it looks like my phone is restarting now, so I might be able to see. Let me find you all so I can also see comments.
And again, if you have
Um,
questions, ask us anything. We will answer them as best we can.
yes. How is your full moon is the first thing we can ask. Okay, I'm seeing comments now. So, yay. Okay. Beautiful. So, I'll start a little bit with the astrology for this full moon, right?
Yep.
And so, full moon in Virgo. So you can look at your Virgo placements. It's 5 degrees. So you can also look at wherever you have placements between, let's be generous, let's be like 0 to 10 degrees in any sign. This will affect those placements in your chart. And if we're looking at Virgo for the collective, what Virgo stands for, I feel like what I wanted to bring up here today is, for one, Virgo, it's an earth sign. It can be a perfectionist. It's ruled by Mercury, very strategic, very mind dominated in one way. Also, obviously, very heartfelt. But what I want you to kind of pay attention to with this is that if you're trying to, hi, Michelle, if you're trying to perfect something, and the message here, what I would want to say is that you are loved as you are. You don't have to be perfect to be loved. So it's about releasing. Full moon is always about releasing. So it's about releasing the pressure that you have, and maybe because of your conditioning and other people have put on yourself to be perfect, to be better. So like bring up all this of like, oh, this is not enough. I'm not enough. Any of those kind of feelings or pressure that is often, if it's put on us as conditioning, it's often internalized. We don't really realize that that it comes necessarily from other people. So we've internalized it, right? It's finding that fault with yourself. So if that's anything, because it's a full moon, this is an invitation to release that and to love yourself. This full moon is so much about self-care and coming into your heart, doing things for yourself from your heart. Virgo is also rules the digestive system. So, and Virgo is very health conscious as a sign. So this is about where can you take care of yourself. And if your body is loud right now in any way, listen to your body. Listen to your body. It always guides you right. right? You're kind of where you're kind of where I need you. Yes, exactly. I've been feeling last couple of days and happily releasing. Yes, 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 and yes. Beautiful. I feel like there was one more thing that I wanted to say. I felt like there was three things that I was thinking about, but it will come to me if that's it. Um, and so we can look at this. So that's the kind of overall. And you can look at the house that Virgo is in. If you want help with that, drop it in the chat, and I can just kind of look into it. And so it's going to affect the house that Virgo is in for you in your chart. And I wrote a little comment or a little post just an hour ago in the group here. Just took a photo of my ritual that I've done this afternoon here. And I said that Tyler and I did beautiful healing work together last night. And I started with what was prominent for me in my Virgo placement, but it led to deep, deep healing and understanding. Again, we work so much with the inner feminine and masculine and where that is. So it led me to deep understanding and programming since my childhood, even since my birth, is where we got down to. But we started with the prompt of what was prominent for me right now, where my Virgo house was. And so, hi, Melanie. And can't wait to see you again. And so what I wanted to say, though, for all of you who have placements around 5 degrees in any of your chart, if you look at your chart, and 0 to 10 degrees, really, it's kind of like this Virgo energy is directed towards that planet that you might have there. And so you can also look into how can you take care of that planet and the archetype of that planet, from the sense of what I was just saying about Virgo, about releasing pressure, releasing perfectionism, loving yourself more, and anything about your body and health as well. And Virgo is really, it's an earth sign, so it's very about routines, right? So it's about what can you put in place now? What can you replace when you've made space of releasing this pressure or perfectionism or anything about the body? What routines can you put in place in order to bring more self-care in any of these areas and in any of areas in general? That's kind of where I wanted to say, and I know this resonates so much with you, but yeah.
Yeah, no, so, and I think it's interesting because, in Kabbalah, today is the full moon of Adar, and Adar, there's a double month. I've talked about this before. The month of Adar is all about celebrating the work that we've done. And instead of looking ahead of all of the overwhelming stuff we need to do, it really is meant to be look at where we are today compared to where we were a year ago. As we finish up this cycle, because over the next 2 moon cycles, we will complete the Jewish cycle and start again in the month of Nisan, which is where Passover comes in. But today, I even wrote about this morning, this idea of self-care, that all of the passages today were about the priests entering the Holy of Holies. It was about incense. It was about how do we smell? Have we smelled ourselves lately? Are we being fragrant? Are we not smelling very good? Are we fighting for our own self-care? Or are we fighting for others and releasing our own self-care for the benefit of others, which is not going to smell good? And so this idea of fighting for self-care is important. And I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, is I'm adding this new practice into my life that I wanted to do. I do all this stuff in the morning, but then in the afternoon, I start to really struggle. And I tried yesterday and today, I've been trying to add this additional afternoon self-care. And it has been a slog. It has been a real slog. My kids were acting up yesterday, and I had to intentionally focus on that self-care. Today, I'll be honest, I didn't get to do it. And I had planned to do it before the sun went down, and I never had the chance. And that's okay, right? Like, it's a process, and I can't get so locked in of, oh, I didn't do it, I'm this awful person. It's like, nope, I'm going to get another chance tomorrow. And that's okay. And so as we look at this fullness, it's shining a light on how much are we going to fight for ourselves and our own self-care. And I think a lot of times we put ourselves last. And these rituals and these routines we put aside because of these other pieces. So I think for me, that is very much in line with the things you're talking about from an astrological perspective.
Right. And also the routines that you put in place with your kids because of it as well,
Yes.
just supporting that as well, not just for you, but like, okay, how does this affect everyone, and what can we do together, and what can you do, for them to put those routines, yeah, for well-being in place. Mm-hmm. I love that. um and we'll go into the 59th jinky, but let's see here. So mine is in the 8th house. You did a huge percentage of my comfort zone, and it went so amazing. I was so supported by the lineage. That's beautiful. So in the 8th house, that's all about transformation, really, and healing work. So that's really beautiful, and showing that as well, knowing you, Michelle, and the work that you do. You're helping people on their healing journey. And so showing that, at least what I read from that comment is that showing that, okay, this is out of your comfort zone, but that's, as we know, that's how we always grow. And that's how we can inspire others to step out of their comfort zone as well, because that's the healing, and that's the vulnerability, and that's the love right there on our transformational path. So thank you for sharing that, Michelle.
And I just read Ruth's comment about
Yep.
smelling and how do we smell, and I'm reflecting even on the moment. This is just like right now. I'm hearing how hard is it to smell ourselves, right? Like if you think about it, I could have the worst body odor and not be aware of it, and it requires somebody else who cares about me to come along. Because and I'm not going to mention any names, but I may or may not have a child who I've had the conversation with, like, hey, when you don't smell very good, like, do you want me as your father to say something to you, or do you want me to just let it go? Is that going to be too embarrassing? And she's like, no, if I don't smell good, I don't want to go to school smelling bad. So tell me. But how hard is it for us, for me to say, hey, you know what, Christina, right now, you don't smell very good. Are you aware of that? Because you may not be aware of how you smell. Because I just think about maybe I'm alone in that, but I can't, when we smell our breath, right? It's like how do we can't, the smell piece is really tough. And it requires other people's feedback to really help us understand where that smell is. And in a sense, that's why we burn incense. And for me, growing up Jewish, as I read the Torah, the idea of incense is a new concept for me. I always thought burning incense was some like horrible thing I shouldn't do because it was like the wrong spirits. But when I read the Torah and it's like they're burning incense, it's like, of course we're going to burn incense because smell is one of those senses. And we don't often think about smell. We don't have smell-o-vision. We have three-dimensional television, but the smell piece is a big piece. So I think for me, that's really important. Um, for me, as I'm thinking about this, is who do we have in our lives that will help us interpret our smells for us?
I like that. And it's vulnerability, right? And that's what we'll get into in the gene key as well, to being that vulnerable. And thank you, Ruth. I'm going to read through. I read some of it. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to mention one other thing. So Angie said it's hit about 11 days ago. What I wanted to say with this, it's not necessarily the full moon, but we had a huge transit two days ago, 48 hours ago, or a little bit less maybe, which was a Mars Venus conjunction. And so this is all about unity, and it happens in Aquarius. And 11 days ago, well, on the 13th, I believe it was, we had a Pluto Mars conjunction, and then we had a Pluto Venus conjunction. And this is why I wanted to bring this all up, because Pluto just moved into Aquarius. And even if you're not following astrology, you might have heard about that, because it's a big deal. And because Pluto is all about death and rebirth, it's about taking back our power where we have put it out, or however that is, or lost it somehow, or not realized it. So with Pluto then hitting Venus, and then Mars, the feminine, the masculine, and then yesterday or the day before, Venus and Mars meeting up. This is all about unity. This is so much of the work that Tyler and I do in our course, Opening Doors to Sacred Love, that we just finished. And it was the reason why this first round that we just finished the other day, 2 days ago, was because we put it onto those astrology dates, because we were working within a feminine and masculine and the unity within. And we're starting our next round April 7th, and you can get an early bird on that right now. It was an absolutely amazing course. And we will come back to that. But what I wanted to say, 11 days, like these last 2 weeks has been huge for the collective, for Pluto moving into Aquarius and then hitting Mars and Venus. So regardless of what that is in your chart, if you have early Aquarius placements, you might have felt it even more, but just early placement in any sign, because it does aspects to any signs. But even regardless of that, this is a huge rebirth. And because it's a new energy, Pluto takes 15 to 20 years to move through one sign. So it's a new energy for all of us, for the collective. So that's why it's felt even more so. And really digging up these deep and inner feminine and masculine, that also has to do obviously with your own divinity, how you receive and how you do things, and what energy you do things with and from, and what timing. But it also has deeply to do with your mother and father wound, which is usually where we then have to where we then work through every single relationship that we have in our life, based on how we were impacted by our parents and caregivers in childhood, right? So this is a deep collective rebirth and activation that we're all going through right now. So just wanted to offer that, Angie, because you mentioned it too, and I don't think you're not alone in that. I know what I had to go through, visiting Tyler, and because of the course that we did, and because of these trances, it was deep, and I've gone deeper than ever before, in a sense, with all of these things for me, and really gone. And I haven't even shared. I will share, but just being in central New York, never been before, and how it looks like Sweden. I had just so many just like flashes. This is Sweden. This is Sweden. This is Sweden. And I had to like go into what that was for me, and my childhood, and all of that, and look so many levels deeper because of that. But I just wanted to offer that as a collective. If you've all been feeling this for the last 2 weeks, it's really, it's intense, and it's beautiful, and it's rebirth, and it's a potential and opportunity. All right, should we go into the Dinky?
Are there any quincunx or trines that we need to talk about?
No, I was looking at that. It doesn't, there, nothing else is in 4 to 6 degrees right now. We have Saturn in 9 degrees, and I did a 9 degrees Pisces, and I did well, actually, yeah, we have Mercury in 2 degrees. It's pretty close to where the sun is too. But I did a live on all these Pisces placements, and the huge Cazimi, conjunct Cazimi, double Cazimi that's happening on on Wednesday. I did a live about that. I think it was just yesterday. I feel like I've lived lifetimes.
It was yesterday. I saw the beginning of it, and you did say quincunx, and you did say Cassini conjunctions, and you're speaking my language that I don't understand.
And Tyler understands a lot. He's very smart, reads a lot of books, understands a lot. So for him to say that he doesn't understand something is a bit unusual, which he loves, and I can challenge him in that, which he doesn't always get the challenge in. So I love that. We both love that. Yes. You were so close to me. I know, Angie, and just the afternoon I spent in New York City for the first time in my life, I thought about you if I had more time in
where is Angie from?
She's in New Jersey. I'm not sure exactly where you are, though.
She's a Jersey girl?
Yes, I believe so, right?
Gym tan laundry. Does she do gym tan laundry?
What was that?
That's an old, never mind. Just move on. It was an old joke.
Okay. anyways, so all these Pisces and the amazing conjunction Casimi that's happening on Wednesday, everyone should know about it. This is a big deal if you're into personal growth and spirituality. Cazimis are amazing. So go back and listen to the live that it's just here in the if you're listening to this in my Facebook group, I would say if you're listening on YouTube, you have to come into my Facebook group, Sanctuary Within, and I'll tag that in the YouTube video as well when we put it up there. With that said too, there's a lot of Saturn being brought up with that Casimi, which is about authority. It's an outer planet. It's helping you from going from limitations into mastery. And this is a class that I'm teaching on March 3rd. If you're interested in how these bigger life-changing transits in the planets, how they affect you personally and how you can move with them rather than being unaware of them and having kind of it just kind of slap in your face, and instead moving with it and help you move with that flow. Join my workshop on March 3rd. I still have a few spots for that, and I will spend time with everyone. I have limited spots available because I will spend some personal time with each one of you as well, so that I can help you with that. So that's on sanctuarywithinyou.com/astrology. You can find that. Yep.
Angie's from South Jersey. I used to live in Stone Harbor, and yes, I was in Stone Harbor for a little bit, so I'm familiar with South Jersey, Angie. I'm a Philly boy. I grew up in Philly. So, all right, we should shift gears into the gene keys. I love this 59th gene key.
Yes. So this full moon is the 59th gene key. It is the programming partner. When you learn more about gene keys, you'll learn that there's always a programming partner. And the programming partner is the 55th gene key, which is huge.
My favorite gene key.
Yes, that's what brought Tyler into gene keys, actually. And that's
wait, let's be real. It's what connected me with you. That's what connected. Without the 55th gene key, there would be no 3 between us.
Right, because we wouldn't have started talking when we did. It was interesting because you commented on something that I posted in the group a month earlier, and it was just a comment. It wasn't there was no connection there. It was gene keys that made a connection. Yeah.
I don't even know that. I don't think I remember that I commented on the post earlier, but
you did.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what we want to know about that in the 55th and the 59th is important here. So just to introduce the 59th, that is this full moon. It's that Virgo placement. I forgot to see, I think, let's see here, the full moon is 5 degrees. So if you have any Virgo placements, or if you have the 59th gene key anywhere in your chart, this is going to be really impactful for you, obviously. And the Virgo placement would be early Virgo placements, probably from around it must be late, it may be even late Leo placements, like 28 degrees Leo to 5 degrees Virgo, something like that. Anyways, for you who are a little bit more into astrology, that's gonna be even more so for you. But let's see the words from this 59th gene key, the shadow space. And for you who are not into gene keys, they are amazing. They have changed my life many times over. They have brought my soul family, soul tribe into my life in the last 2 years. I have membership in it. I do mentorships in it. They are so deep. And the sun, they move with the sun. So there's every 5 days, there's a gene key highlighted depending on where the sun is. So, and there's 64 gene keys, and you have 11 in your chart. So the 59th gene key, maybe you know about it already.
Shadow of dishonesty.
Shadow of dishonesty.
Shadow of dishonesty.
Moving into transparency through the transformational path of intimacy. And it's the ring of union, which is amazing because we had this union of Mars and Venus the other day. So it's like extra potent right now. And that doesn't always happen when this gene key is highlighted. So just going to put that out there. All right. You want to start?
You want me to start? So one of the things I love, and I'm going to really shift gears here. I'm a dad, and that's been a big thing for me in the last couple of days. Um, and I think one of the biggest struggles as a dad was facing the dishonesty of my kids. You know, when our kids lie to us and how angry and frustrating it is. It's like, just be honest and I can help you. Why are you lying? Why? When I learned about this gene key, it radically changed how I viewed my kids' life. That I saw it instead and taking it personally, like I was somehow untrustworthy or it was about me. It's like, no, this for them is learning about the importance of transparency. They're learning about the idea of trusting and being vulnerable and learning intimacy. Because if you go your whole life and you never battle dishonesty, how intimate can you really be? How much of a risk? Because intimacy involves risk. You have to be transparent and take the risk to be transparent, to know it would be much easier to be dishonest than to just hold out our guilt, our shame, and put it out there for somebody else to look at and be intimate with. What are those things that we hide from ourselves? What are those things that we are dishonest about? It's like when a woman said, you know, you ask a woman how you doing, she's like, I'm fine. Is that really honest? Is it, or are they just trying to protect themselves or protect themselves from somebody else's feelings and not wanting to dig into that transparency of I'm only willing to give you I'm fine. Deep inside of me, I am not fine, but I'm not going to be honest with you about that. And what I love about all of this is how the smooth, buttery voice of Richard just brings it all home and reminds us that it all starts with the honesty within us. That are we being honest with ourselves? Take it away.
No, I just wanted to put in there, if you're new to Gene Keys or you want to listen to this Gene Key, it's $2 to listen. Richard Rudd is the founder of the Gene Keys, and you can just go to genekeys.com and put in Gene Key 59 in the search field, and you can purchase the audio contemplation for the 59th for $2 if you want to. And that's what he said, Richard's buttery voice, because it's his contemplation. He's amazing. It feels like light language when he talks. Just
Well,
putting it out there for everyone.
and what's great is he even talked about this. This was the third time he had to do this one because it keeps evolving for him, even, which is a big
Yep.
deal. But the whole idea is how honest are we within ourselves? And you know, we talked about this came up in our class how the human brain has the most incredible capacity to lie to us, to convince us of whatever it is we want to believe. And it keeps us in a place of being stuck instead of really digging into that honesty and becoming very transparent and being intimate with ourselves, being intimate with what is going on within us instead of like distracting ourselves, instead of numbing ourselves. Can we do the work to go in and deal with that dishonesty, those coping mechanisms that we've created to survive? That so to me, that's the start. And I could keep going, but I want you have such good things to say about this. I want to give you a
Yeah.
chance. My love, just go.
And so um what this is about too, and in this Gene Key, as you say, it's about being honest with ourselves to get into the places within ourselves that is the hardest to get into, what we will do whatever we can to distract us through whatever means of distraction. But it's also about distracting in relationship, like go into a relationship and distract us with all that feelings about the relationship or about someone else instead of focusing within us, or distracting ourselves by the busy to-do list and living this life instead of going within, or distracting, and this hit me so much, distracting ourselves by moving physically, which, you know, I've done a few times in this lifetime, moving continents, right? To distract ourselves from really sitting. Not that any of that is bad, because it's not about judging when we are distracting ourselves, because this is the deep work. No wonder that we're distracting ourselves. No judgment about that, because that's just the same thing coming in the back door and beating ourselves up. And it's the healing is all done through love and compassion, which is so much in this gene key, obviously, too. So not judging, everything has its time. And sometimes we're not ready to go into something, and that's okay. We can wait for a decade if we want. We can wait to a different lifetime if we want to go into something really deep. No judgment. There is no right or wrong, or no certain timeline of this. We all have free will and free choice. But what this dinky is so much about is to, yes, self-honesty, but also about then looking into the trauma within ourselves, but also in the collective. This is really going, and this is a very relational gene key. It is like we learn through relationships. As human beings, we are relational beings. So we learn through relationships, which is why the work that I do on my own and in my coaching, the work you do in your coaching, and the work that we do together in our coaching, is all about going to the core of our programming from childhood in our own life, but also the collective programming and how we learn to move and heal and alchemize that. That's human evolution. That's why we're doing this work, right? And this is so much about in this gene key as well. There was something else that I wanted to say with it, but I forgot about it now. Oh yeah. So for me, for you who have worked with me for a while, you know that I'm all for that. Like, to me, I phrase it as knowing yourself intimately is your greatest strength. Because when you know yourself, and when you learn how to move with triggers and trauma and wounding, and when you know how to alchemize it, even if you can't do it right away, but when you know it, you come into an inner strength because you're so vulnerable with yourself. So things that someone else says or do, it's not really a surprise for you. And if it does trigger something within you that you haven't looked at yet, when you know yourself intimately, you know how to look at it, or you have probably created a support system of where to go and get support in looking at it. So being that intimate, like shining a spotlight into every single one of our shadows within, is your greatest strength, because that's what true strength comes from. When you can stand with an open heart and you know yourself really, really well, then it's not as scary. You can feel vulnerable, but it's not as scary to be vulnerable, because you know that life is meant to live with an open heart, and that's how we heal ourselves, and that's how we heal humanity. That doesn't mean become a doormat. That's not what I'm saying at all, because people pleasing is a very relative thing in this way, right? That's a part of dishonesty of, okay, how do we filter ourselves or push ourselves down or repress ourselves because of people pleasing, right? That's not being honest with ourselves, and that's not standing up for ourselves. That's not what I'm saying. But living with an open heart, that's your greatest strength. So I just wanted to say
Can I
that in
give a
terms of
good
intimacy. Please.
Can I give a good example of this that I think would help? It's when somebody criticizes you. If you are solid in knowledge that the criticism is not valid, it's not going to impact you a whole lot. So, for example, if somebody calls me dumb or somebody calls me unintelligent, I know I'm pretty smart. So, if somebody says that to me, I'm not going to be emotionally triggered and feel like I have to defend my intelligence with them because I know it. I know what I'm smart about. When we talk astrology, I know I'm not smart on astrology. So I may have a little fun and I may like say some things in jest, but at the end of the day, I know who I am. And I don't know a queen come from a sextile. I don't. That doesn't bother me. But you criticize me about being selfish. Oh, maybe I am selfish. What if I am selfish? I'm going to go inward and be emotionally potentially triggered by that. because maybe I don't know myself well enough to just say, I'm not selfish. I know I'm not selfish. The more unsure we are, the more we are open to that emotional response because we haven't done that work. We haven't been honest with ourselves. We haven't been that intimate within ourselves. So that's where this comes up in helping us navigate those emotional triggers. So it really behooves us to be that honest because if we're not, and somebody else comes along, they're just going to scratch at a wound and they're going to open that up and like, I haven't really landed on whether or not I'm a jerk, or I've not landed on, whether I'm a good dad, or I'm like, and that's where I'm going to emotionally react and want to become very defensive. Because again, most of what we do is a projection. And if I react because I'm projecting my own insecurity, that's all me. And that's the honest work we've got to do. And it's
And
hard.
also,
It's hard.
right, and also seeing that we all live life from our own reality. So it's somewhat easy to project our own reality, our own emotions about or reactions about something onto someone else. And it's interesting this coming out. I did not think about this at all, but going through divorce, for example, a few years ago, who people have opinions about divorce. And most of those opinions was not true to me or my experience in my divorce. And I learned how much projection and how much it's just like it just came hailing at me. And some of it I either defended or just said, or some of it I didn't even reply to because I realized how much projections that was, and most of it was not true for me and my experience. But we all operate from what we have heard or what we've gone through, and we think that that's often the truth for other people as well. And that's why it's really important to see that we all get to have different realities and to listen to that, which is the part of what this like the tantra part of this gene key is about too. It's about really listening to other people without having to taking it on ourselves or without projecting. It's just simply holding that space. And that's just something that I think as a human species that we are learning deeply, to not take things personally, to see that there's always two sides of the coin. And none of it is right or wrong. We get to be and have our own experience, but we also get to be cognizant of if we do project our own experience onto others.
And it is personal. So, like last night, you and I did all that work, and it was mostly
Mm-hmm.
you kind of bringing up these, traumas and wounds and things like that. And then my reflection this morning was, where is that within me? Because
Right.
obviously that came up last night for you, and I was holding space for you. But for me to be curious about, first of all, there's a reason why Christina's in my life, and there's a reason why we're having that conversation. So this morning, my reflection was, where do I need to go with this? What is it I could uncover and dig up and become more transparent? And what it created in me was almost the mirror of what you and I were talking about last night for you. I need to create more structure with my kids today because things were so not structured. And that for me, it created this opportunity for me to be honest about my experiences in the world. So it isn't personal, like, right? That conversation was about you, and there was information and data in there for me to reflect on for me. And so it really is this both and because it's
Yeah.
all a projection. When you're talking to me and you're projecting to me, and I am receiving that projection, I'm not taking it in as mine. And I'm looking at that projection on the other side of it going, what can I get out of this? Where is this landing for me? So that's the beauty of this is that
Yeah.
that's to me the alchemization. the tantric piece of it, that kind of that knowing that it's not, it's that wisdom and understanding coming together. It's that knowledge, and he talks about the sexuality piece of this, that when two souls come together, there is this intimacy, there is this knowledge that is really this idea of almost orgasmic. It's not in a sexual way, but in an intellectual, emotional knowledge way that it gets reciprocated. And so I think it isn't personal, and it is.
Yeah. And for anyone who doesn't like Tantra, the origin of Tantra is not sexual. Just to also put that out there, right? It's the orgasmic in all the other well, that included sexual could be, but it's in all the other ways too. It's about raising consciousness. What I wanted to say that is that, everything and everyone is a mirror, and that's why we're doing the opening doors to sacred love, because we're giving this framework of what has happened within you and how is that mirrored in relationships, because every relationship is a mirror of something that we are navigating inside us at that particular moment, and what we're called to look deeper into. And that's why we have this course, because it's our own inner journey, but that is going to directly correlate to how your relationship plays out, which is this Dean Key too. He says, look at your relationships right now, and not just a love relationship, your friendships, your family, your colleagues, everything. How is it playing out right now? What is loud right now? Because that is what you're working at or being called to look at inside of you. It doesn't have to be like exactly the same piece. I always look at the energy. What is the energy that's showing up, and how is that energy inside of you? And that's why that's how we do this course. It's for, yes, if it is for, if you want to better your relationships and or find those amazing relationships, but it all starts within you, and you have to we all have to look at and realize what is mirrored outside us of what is going on inside us. And as we do our inner work, then the outer experiences transform as well.
Well, and Elena put a comment in that is right on. Curiosity really is the key. Can we be curious about those mirrors? So I write about the Torah every day. And growing up, whenever you study the Torah, where do you put yourself in the story? We're reading about Moses and Exodus and Pharaoh. And so how often do we see ourselves as Moses in the story of Exodus? But how often do we put ourselves in the position of being Pharaoh? How can we look at Pharaoh in the story and his hardened heart and his struggle to grieve, and can we relate to that and be curious about what can we learn by putting ourselves in Pharaoh's shoes? Because we don't often do that. We see it very one-sided. In Judaism and even in Christianity, people look at Jacob and Esau as the twin brothers from Isaac. Jacob and Esau. And how many of us look at Jacob and relate to Jacob, but we ignore Esau and the Esau within us? And so often we do not get curious, and we discount certain characters. When we read books, we tend to identify with the hero. We don't often think about how are we also the villain, not because we are a villain, but because we may have something that we can learn within us by understanding that character within us. And I think we close ourselves off and we judge, we're not that. That's not us. That's not me. Where inside of you might it be? That's where the curiosity can really dig into these shadows and become transparent to the place of being intimate, to love that villain within us, to love that Pharaoh within us, to love that piece of us that we have villainized and rejected to the point where they don't even exist in our framework anymore. So we can't have feelings about them. Right, Christina?
Yes, that is all from yesterday. But what I wanted to say first there is about that are we so afraid of being seen or being identified as the villain, as the bad guy, that we become a doormat because we're so afraid of that. Like, well, what happens if I assert myself? And this is all about conditioning. If you've been pushed down just by your existence, or by having a will or a want, and that's been pushed down, have that part been so traumatized within you, so that you interpret any kind of will or assertion as a villain, and instead, because of that, have become a doormat, and just take more than, like, don't have the proper boundaries, which I think a lot of people resonate with, and myself included, right? And that's a part of our inner work as well. We can't, like, there is all parts within us, and when we start to judge that, oh, I just want to be this part and I don't want to be this part, it's usually the extremes that we don't want, but that makes us then avoid the healthy part of those extremes.
Well, and when we try to avoid those parts of us, they tend to create opportunities in our lives for us to pay attention to them. And those opportunities will get louder and louder and louder, just like a little kid, right? Like if we don't pay attention to one of our kids, they will destroy things to get our attention because they will not be ignored. And there are parts of us that will continue to come around until we go, I see you. I see you. Let's talk. What do you need? How can I nurture you? How can I bring my divinity to you? Instead of constantly rejecting you and saying, you're not a part of me. You have nothing to do with me. Be away from me. I want to get rid of you. I don't want you to be here. They're going to keep coming back saying, here I am. Oh, here I am. And that is that true, intimate, deep work that is super hard.
Yeah, and that's what part of what we went into for my healing journey yesterday, of like just realizing those parts that was so hard for me to even admit, and then realizing that they've been pushed down since birth, and a part of my conditioning from my parents, but within me. So I just completely discounted that part of me, and I have to bring that part up. I can't live a life without it, but it had been so diminished that I wasn't even like, well, this is a non-existent part of me, because it was so pushed down. And we can't do that with ourselves. We are every single part of ourselves. That's a part of being a human being. It's a part of what I journaled this afternoon in my cacao ceremony that I did for myself this afternoon too, of like, okay, what are these parts that I have somehow learned or internalized, and also in the collective trauma, because let's face it, all of us who are here, we are we are doing our journey, right? And because we're helping the collective as well. And we have to look at the collective trauma as well, but to see that, okay, this is a part that has been shamed or felt guilt or whatever that is, and how can we bring that into the light, to see that that's an important part, because we're human beings. We're not talking about Virgo women. We're not perfect. We wouldn't be human beings if we were. I usually say that perfect, to me, that's a part of the imperfection, because we all have all these parts, and the beauty of it is when we love all parts of ourselves. That is the healing journey to wholeness, into our own essence, what we already are. It's just the trauma parts that's been put upon us that makes us think in society, makes us think in the whole system, makes us think that we are broken, right? That's a part of the system. And we are not. And our journey is really to learn that we're not broken, and to shed all the trauma pieces that has said that we are, and to see our own divinity. But our own divinity as human beings includes humanness and everything that is about being a human, including our mind that gets us on trips, and including our nervous system doing different things, including our physical bodies. It's embracing and loving every single part of us. That's what brings us into unity and wholeness.
And
We all have both.
can I And might I dare bring this back to astrology based on what I've learned from a really beautiful, intelligent person I follow when it comes to astrology? Would this Virgo moon bring to light that for some of us, most of us, all of us, it's hard to do the work because at the end of the day, we have to be honest about those imperfections when what most of us want to do is figure out a way to do all of this work to be perfect to then deal with it, right? Like, so this idea of well, there's this part of me that I need to work on before I really look at it. So that way, once I work on it and it's reached this level of perfection, well, now I can look at it. Now I can acknowledge it. Now I can see it as being real instead of looking at it when it isn't perfect, when it is far from perfect, to the point where it's not even existent. Is that what this Virgo full moon is doing for us? Being that you are the person that I follow who's very beautiful and intelligent when it comes to astrology?
Um, well, yes, and I'd love to go into this more apart from astrology. Yes, it's very much Virgo, right? But with that too is about, wait, I just lost it. What did you just say about
That you are beautiful and intelligent and you're
no,
the person I follow for astrology?
no.
Oh, okay, that wasn't what I was. No, but this idea that we have to wait until
Oh,
we have this
yes,
thing taken
thank
care
you.
of.
Yeah, thank you. Um, so that I want what I wanted to say here about worthiness, because this is something that I come across so much and have had to face within myself, and all the manifestation workshops and whatnot that I've done. It's about this, like, well, when I get to this point, then I will do this, or when I get to this point, then I'm worthy this. And I come across it a lot in terms of relationship of like, well, I have to fix this within myself or within my habits, and then I can invite or have the beautiful relationship. But I don't want to show this part of me, so I have to figure this out before I want to invite someone to
Mm,
have that relationship with me. That's something that I've come across quite often, or whatever that is. And they can be like, well, I have to have this in order in my life, or I have to be have this perfect, or be the expert in this, or have overcome this that I judge that is not perfect in my life right now, in order to have the next thing. And that's all about worthiness, really, because we're worthy the
mm,
most beautiful in our things and our dreams and all of that right here and right now. But we're, as human beings, very good at telling ourselves that we have to fix ourselves or one thing in our life before we can enjoy this. And it's the same excuse as like, well, I'm just gonna work my whole life and do a career and then save money, and then when I get to retire, I'm gonna enjoy life and all the money and spend all do travel, all of that. That's BS. We life is meant to be lived here and now, and we're all worthy to live life to the fullest here and now. So why are you waiting to live life to the fullest for another day when we don't know if, I should be honest, if that day is coming or not? And that's something that I had to learn by facing so much death in my life, right? And and that might be a heavy part of it, but it's really true. Like, to a life live well lived is about enjoying life in the present moment, whether it is your dream life or not. It's about, like, we can have a whole lot of stuff going on in our life in the moment, and we can still be worthy to take a deep breath and simply just enjoy the sunshine on our face for a moment, or take a deep breath and
mm,
sit and listen to the most beautiful song for 5 minutes, or take a deep breath and indulge in going within for self-care for a few moments, even in the busiest time of life and even in the most chaotic time of life. That is a life well lived to me.
mm. Elena's clapping
Mm.
for you.
Thank you, Lena. Mm. And that's where it comes to, this beautiful journey that we get to do in life. It's all comes back to the present moment. We are worthy here and now, and we get to live life here and now. And when we get out of our heads and learn to get out of worry about the future, or or reminiscing or like repeating the past and what we've said or done and not done and wish it to be different, wishing something to be different that we can't change, then we're wasting this present moment.
Or promises that we made that served us in the moment, but have become restrictive towards our growth. That
Yeah,
we made promises to ourselves. I will never do this again, or I will like, and that worked in the moment. But as we evolve, as we grow, we outgrow those promises. And then we're stuck with, do I betray those promises I made? Or do I hold to those promises and prevent myself from moving further? How do we break out beyond that? And that requires a level of intimacy and honesty about the moment I made that promise to myself, why I did that, those traumas. You know, he talks about moving from trauma to tantra. Like that is the alchemization of those traumas serving a function so that we go through all of that crud and we build these safe vessels to get us through and survive this trauma. But then we come into this open space that we find ourselves living in, and we're still scared and afraid of that trauma that is no longer salient other than the reality, power, energy we give it in this moment because we've brought it with us. Instead of really releasing that trauma, instead of saying, I am no longer bound by that trauma and that I am free, I can step out of my arc that I built for myself that kept me safe and just be free. And if I make a mistake, so be it. I am not afraid of the mistake. That mistake doesn't define who I am. It allows me to learn deeper what's important to me. And I'm going to relate it to because I know we had somebody who was asking about, you know, we had shared that you had shared on a couple different pages our process or your process about, meeting each other. And I had this 3-page list of what I wanted in a partner. And people were like, wow, 3 pages, Tyler. How do you get to 3 pages? It didn't start as 3 pages. It started as 7 things. And every time I entered into a relationship and something didn't work or things didn't go the way I wanted to, I went back to the list and said, oh, now I know this is what I want. This relationship taught me this is important to me. I have to be able to have conflict with a partner in a healthy way where they feel like I can listen to them and they can in turn understand and listen to me and we can conflict in a healthy way. There's a new piece. Oh, I need somebody who is resilient and isn't going to get stuck in the past and can get themselves. Those are not things I learned at the beginning. It's only because I was willing to step out, make the mistakes, be in therapy every week and talk about it with my therapist and pull pieces of it out to say, nope, this is what I want. Nope, this is what I want. Oh, don't want that, want this. And then along comes Christina, and she comes into my life and I'm like, oh, huh, that's interesting. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, let's see where this goes. And if things don't work, I'm sure there'll be something else I will add to this list. If they go the way I think they're going to go, then I won't have to worry about that listing. But that's the process. We have to be willing to make the mistake, to learn the lesson, instead of taking the safe route of hiding ourselves in a hole or in a corner or in the depths of our shadows, unwilling to be transparent and intimate, to not let people on our island.
Yeah, and we have to be courageous to live life. That's what I'm hearing you say too. We have to
Yes.
be courageous to live life, to make the mistakes, and also to dive into, like I talk about this a lot as well, and what I had to do after in my divorce and after my divorce too, is that I had to grieve some of the dreams that that I had created in our three with my ex-husband. In our co-creation is what we call our three. If you're listening, haven't heard that term that Tal and I use. And so I had to see, like, some of that I was ready to let go of, and those were dreams, and they deserved some grieving. That okay, we didn't manage to co-create these dreams, and I had to go into myself and be honest with myself. Is this still a dream that I have and that I want to co-create with someone else? Or, as I discovered in some of them, I changed and with my dreams with that. And that doesn't mean that I had done something wrong or been on the wrong path. It has taught me so many things. So I think that's a part of too, that we get to also change. It's not just the limitations, or that, like, the arc that becomes limitations in survival mode. It's also about being fluent and allowing ourselves to change in any direction, in both limitations and dreams as well. And, like, to be able to grow, like what Elena says to you, commented on that, on the vows, right? And that's something that I had with my ex-husband. We entered in a very conscious partnership, and we wrote our own vows, and we said in our vows, we're meant to be together for as long as we grow together. And that was it. And that was a part that we came up against, and that we realized that we didn't do anymore, in the same way. And so also looking at those vows, as you said, like whatever that commitment is that we do between in the partnerships or to ourselves, to see when have we, just as you said, when have we outgrown them, instead of holding ourselves to one identity of, like, well, this is the identity, and this was me 10 years ago or 20 years ago when I was born, or this is my cultural, or this is my societal or religious or whatever, like this is the right thing. Allowing yourself to transform and change, it's the biggest self-love that we can all give to ourselves. And that is about being honest with yourself, honest with yourself and your own development, honest with yourself and how you flow and how you grow, so that you can be transparent with yourself and other people as well.
And and a lot of people I work with, I think coming out of divorce and even my own divorce process, we so don't realize how much we grieve the idealistic relationship we thought we had versus what was real. We're not
Yep.
grieving the person and the loss of the person we were married to as much as we are grieving the story connected to the person, the story we were holding on to for the future. We so focus on these stories that we tell
Potential.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's not about looking at it from an objective standpoint, because of course it's not objective, it involves our heart, but it's the story that our heart is connected and attached to that is hard to let go of. And closing that chapter of that story and understanding a new chapter, a new day has come. And this new day is completely new, and it's a complete blank slate. And we do not have to bring the last movie, the last chapter into this new one. I get to decide, what are the things I want to bring with me? What are the things I want to leave behind? And we always get to do that. But that is a power and conscious decision we get to make. But that requires grieving the loss of the stories we were living in our own head and heart that we can't hold on to anymore.
And it's so easy, especially for us who identify as empaths or sensitive and having, a big heart. It's so easy to fall in love with the potential that we see in someone, and that we
That is the
actually
worst.
miss the reality. And it's something that myself included, and so many people it is in, and we have to see the reality of even someone's actions, our own actions, not just our talk. Are we walking our talk, or are we just talking to ourselves or to the other person? Is someone else just talking really nice words, but what are the actions? The actions is the reality, and that is just helping us, bringing us down to earth of this is the truth. And that's, yeah, super, super common and also important in relationships and what we get ourselves into and what we're leaving. Yeah. Yes, potential is so dangerous, an illusion. Yes. Yes. And
Don't
not that
fall in
we
love with
can't, like,
potential.
no, and not that we can't hope and see and want and encourage someone, but it's like, for me in relationships, it's been like, I was super loyal, but to a fault, right? And I've had to learn that the hard way of where am I true to myself, and where do I start being dishonest with myself because I'm hoping and I see potential more than actual reality. And yeah, it's an
And the
illusion. And I
problem
do the
with
same thing in astrology too, like I love looking at synastry charts. And we can see so much potential. That's two charts together, two people's charts together. And I love it. I can geek out for a long time about it. But that's looking at potential. What is the actual person in front of us?
because potential energy is the possibility. And
Mm-hmm.
what it ignores is all of the other possibilities that just are as likely to exist. So if I
Yep.
see this potential, I see, because I'm not looking at your worst potential, I'm looking at your greatest potential, right? I'm seeing you as the best version of who you are. And that completely ignores the worst part of who you could become. And I'm solely focused instead of this depth of possibilities in front of us and saying, where are you at today? That's all I can really hope and grow with. And hopefully, as we grow in our, because I have that same potential, I have the potential to be like this amazing man 20 years from now. I have the potential to end up homeless on the street 20 years from now. All of that potential is out in the future and, in one sense, hasn't been determined yet. And in another, my higher self is already there. He is already living in that potential reality because he exists outside of space and time. So he knows where the multiverse is going to end up. And so if I can pay attention to my higher self, I'm going to get to that potential that he thinks and knows is best for me. And that's the trust. That's the part of getting in tune. And that's where the honesty and the transparency and the self intimacy, to bring it back to Gene Key 59, gets us to our fullest potential. But you, Christina, can't do anything for me to get me to my fullest potential. That is all my work within me to do. And that for you to reach your fullest potential, even though I can see this beautiful future potential, there ain't not a darn thing I can do about it when it comes to you. All I can do is watch and observe and see Christina continues every moment to move herself in that direction of working with her higher self to move to her highest potential. That's all I can do is observe it. And the moment I see I'm going this direction, you start going this direction, okay, what's that all about? Where is that going? I can get locked into this future that I saw, or I could see the reality as it exists today. And that's the hard honesty that I think this gene key really has us focusing on, is taking an honest look of what is real today.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we see here in comments, like, yes, it's so easy. All of you, like, it's so easy to see the highest potential. Yes, because we have a heart of gold, and especially with people that we love in one way or another, we want to see their highest potential. We want them to get to their highest potential because we love them, right? But with this is, as we have to check ourselves with in this gene key, that are we distracting ourselves from our own work to our own highest potential, kind of what you said, right? By focusing on someone else's highest potential and going in and holding space, or like living in their reality instead of our own. That's the distraction, and that's the shadow piece in the stinky and within ourselves.
You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind, Christina. That's it. If I look at your highest potential, if I attach to that, I just ride along. I'm just along for the ride. I'm going to ride your coattails to your highest potential. I don't even have to worry about me and where my potential is taking me. I can just ride yours. And when I ride your potential right into the ground and you take me deep into the ground and continue to knock my head up against the wall, and I start blaming you because I keep hitting my head up against the wall because I've attached myself to your potential, and not once have I looked myself in the mirror and say, Tyler, what are you doing to reach your own highest potential here? How is Christina helping you or supporting you getting your highest potential? You're not. I think that's why we focus. Right. But I think that's why we get so focused on other people's highest potential instead of focusing on their lowest potential. Why do we decide to look at the best possible outcome for them?
And we're distracting ourselves from doing our own work, period.
Yep.
Yep.
That is so true.
Yep. That's why we have to remember that we get to choose in every moment, not to attach to anyone or anything that takes us out of alignment. Yeah. And that's our choice, and that's our free will. And that's the hard truth, right? Especially as empaths and wanting the best for the world and everyone else, but we have to do our work. That's the only way that we can then potentially inspire someone else to do theirs. Yeah. Let me see here. It's dangerous because you can make it whatever you want it to be without no basis in reality. Yeah, exactly. Well, dangerous. Yeah, it's dangerous for your own growth. It's what I would say. And it's just about reality check for yourself there. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. It's like seeing someone's potential. If it's a blessing or a curse, I don't adhere to black and white that much. Yes, it's beautiful. And as long as we don't attach to it or don't live by our life through or because of someone else, right?
Because I work with a lot of clients, Christina, and they say, I see his highest potential, but they don't stop to consider the person they care about doesn't see their own highest potential. And so the other person that they're so like, I just see such great things for him. All the while, he thinks he's a piece of crap. And you trying to tell him he's not a piece of crap isn't going to change his belief about himself that he's a piece of crap. He's got to do that work. And until he does, you're going to be hitting your head against the wall saying, come on, you can do better. I know you can do better. And he's sitting there going, no, I can't. I'm a piece of crap. And his reality is going to drive his reality 1,000 times more than the reality you see the potential of him being. I work with so many clients that is the work of letting go of this idealized future and being grounded into this current reality of what do you do when this person that you care deeply about sees themselves as a piece of crap and you see them as something so much more. What do you do with that?
And I would say that the lesson, because it's, we kind of attract the same kind of clients in a way. Someone saying you end up drowning. And then the lesson for us is, or for on the other end is that, okay, well, when are you going to learn? How much are you going to drown before you take care of yourself? Because that's usually the lesson of hard truth. You're not taking care of yourself. Are you seeing your potential and are you working towards your own potential, or are you just trying and hoping for someone else, right? That's usually the biggest lesson back in our face. And I know this because I've come up against this lesson and the universe been smacking me around in whichever way, just so I can wake up like, okay, I need to focus on me more than other people in my life, just because I love helping, I love nurturing people, right? But I have to learn the hard way of I get to be a priority in my life, period. even if it's more comfortable for me to have other people being a priority in my life.
Because at the end of the day, we have to sit in the darkness of our own hearts and ask ourselves, why do we continue to make this choice? Why do we continue to give our sovereignty away to this human who is not seeing their own fullest potential? What part of me is betraying me every moment I am attaching to this person who is not seeing themselves the way I see? That's that hard moment for us, that moment of truth. Who am I really mad at here? Am I more mad at them for not seeing their potential? Or am I mad at me and what part of me that keeps making this choice? And how does this choice keep serving me?
Yeah.
That's hard. This is the stuff.
Yeah. And that's the lesson. And I feel like everyone, yes, astrology, yes, and empowering others, yes. And that's our hardest lesson. And but that's our, as long as we resist that lesson, the more that lesson is going to be loud in our life.
Ooh.
Mm. Mm. All right. Does anyone have any questions, anything they want to bring up with us here today? Otherwise, I feel like I have things to move into and a part or completing this live. But if anyone has anything they want to bring up or ask or anything, we are here for a few more minutes. Is there anything else that you want to say, Tyler, too, that you wanted to bring up today?
Let me feel into that for a second. Because I feel like there's something else. I do feel like there's something else.
I wanted to say too, yes, and yes, the questions right there. Those are the questions, and so a part of this is what we go deep within into our class, and what I wanted to add there for our class open or starting in April. It's going to be on Sundays and it's going to be in the afternoon. So for you who have for this first round had other things during the day, it might be easier for Sundays. It's going to be in the afternoon too. So it's a different time zone. So it's going to be, for example, available more for if people are in Australia. That I don't always do because I usually do morning sessions and that works for Europeans. But just wanted to add that there. And we also have a weekly payment plan if you jump on in time for that. So to make it more available for everyone, I wanted to say as well. And this is what we do, and that's what we've found. As you said, Elena, you guys bring so much knowledge together because we're talking about the same things, and we've gone through, in a way, a lot of similar things, but we come from the different perspectives of being a man and a woman, and the different conditioning and societal conditioning that has meant, and how we face this, and how we understand these different parts within ourselves, and that's what we find in our class. And I know that we blew our own minds and our souls, as well as the people that was in this past round, of how well we complement each other and how much more nuances that we can get in, and uniqueness in that, in the way that we do teach this. So just wanted to say this is an amazing class for the internal work for everyone, really.
Courtney just gave us a shout out because Courtney was in our class, and it was amazing. And I think the fullness of when you bring us together, Christina, we have different yet similar approaches. You're getting both sides of the coin. You're getting so many deep pieces because as a man, I've done the work on my feminine and masculine from the male perspective and can give knowledge about what men experience and the wounding within men, which I think is helpful to understand because that same wounding in men is a mirror for women to look at the masculine within themselves. And likewise, Christina, you've done that work on the masculine and feminine within you. And so for men to see that, it's a mirror, like with me, like when we talk, I learn from you because you're showing me what the feminine looks like with you and the power and all of that. And I get to see that and be more of a mother, a nurturer to my kids. So it's this fullness of the picture versus one or the other.
And also, I would say understanding, in because we're in such an intimate spaces and have such honest, vulnerable conversations in our classes, so that it helps for me as a woman, and I know for you in the class that are women, helps to understand the man's perspective, because it's something that haven't sometimes just like, whoa, how can you even think that way? That wasn't even in my perception, right? Just knowing that, like, in how I interact with men and why they do or talk the way they do. And the same thing, the men that was in the class, like hearing that from a man's perspective and a women's perspective was, helping them to open up that, oh, I haven't seen this nuance and understood that. So it helps in the outer relationship and not judging, but also understanding each other on an inner level as well as on an outer level as well.
So Ruth
And Courtney
asks a
is
very good question.
saying, wait, Courtney's saying, I've literally had so many breakthroughs and clarity on so much through these classes. Yes, I know. And Courtney, someone you've done so much with me, and I'm very happy to bring this, because I know it's an expansion for all of you who worked with me earlier as well. So now you
So,
go,
so
Ruth.
Ruth asked a really good question about learning about myself in regards to flowing in both the feminine and the masculine. Um, and Ruth, part of it for me, the unique part of my journey is I always felt comfortable in my feminine. I used to joke, and I make this joke, and a lot of men will make this joke, but it actually resonated for me. I never felt like a heterosexual man. I always felt more like a lesbian woman because I always felt feminine. People would always mistake me for being gay, and I was never gay. I've always been attracted to women, but I've been so comfortable in my feminine that I was never comfortable as a man. And I went to my spiritual coach, who was a woman, and she asked me, she's like, "Why are you here?" And I said, "You're here to teach me to be a man." And she's like, "You're not the first one to come to me with that request." Therapy was another place. I have a male therapist who has helped me explore this idea of masculinity. The major shift route was Gene Key 2. When I learned they were not separate, I was trying to be masculine and my feminine was asleep. And so when I learned it's not masculine or feminine, it's they're working together. So the idea of there's nothing more powerful in a man's body than offering my feminine energy and saying, I'm here. Whatever you need, I don't have an agenda. You're free. You can be here. You can leave. It doesn't matter to me. I care about you. I'm here for you. For you as a woman to get your masculine energy out a little bit. And when your feminine is ready, for me to flip and give you my masculine strength from a place of kindness and love. When I realized they were not separated, that they were totally together and could not be separated, is when things really flowed for me as a man, because it wasn't one or the other, it was always both and. And if I were to help another man understand, I think I would say it's all about the work in the shadows. It is all about learning to love the victim and villain within. It starts with that 55th gene key, at least it did for me, because the 55th gene key is all about the shadow of the victim. And as men, we are seen as the villain. If you look at society, we have vilified men for good reason, because of safety. Because at the end of the day, we have learned men are not safe. And we're not. And we are. That is the work of feeling safe as a man because I had some hard decisions to make as to who I was. Am I a monster or am I this coward? Because we talk about women and you hear the trope of, the Madonna whore, right? Your choice is you've got to be this like religious icon of purity or you're a whore. That's the false dichotomy women have to make. For men, it's I'm a monster or I'm a coward. That's our choice. And it's not real. What is real is it's neither nor any of those. We just are. We are pure love. Christina says this, and she started saying this. We evolve through pure love. We are divine. The shadows are there, and we are called to love them in our divinity. But the essence of who we are is divine. I think that answers your question, Ruth.
And that's the part of the framework that we go through in our class to define all the different kinds the shadow can show up, because there can be polarities, and so we help define that so that we can see when those parts show up in which situations or which relationships and whatnot, so that we can have the clarity and then bring it into unity and all of that.
Because
Let us know, Ruth.
Yeah, and this is why the class is so important, I think. And I'm a little biased. I mean, Christine and I created this class. We, we are scratching the surface. And Christine and I, as we were processing the class, and Courtney, you probably realize this, Courtney, we were still scratching the surface in the class. We still had not gotten into the deep of the things that Christina and I are working on. That's why we're offering the deep dive for those who took the classes. Like there is so much depth to explore that this is the stuff. And I don't think it can be explored by just me as a man. And it can't be just explored by Christina as a woman. And I'll be honest, it can't be explored on your own either. I couldn't do this work just by myself. I couldn't do this work just reading and journaling. The only way this work could be done is with Christina. I couldn't
And that's
do
what we
this
both
work any
realized,
other way.
because we have done for a few years on our own, really, and we are people that dive really deep and have support networks to help us dive deep. And we both realized that we came to this point where we had done so much work on our own, and then it's like, okay, well, this is the work together. And Courtney, I'm sure will say too, like, yes, it's just scratching the surface, and we packed a lot. We realized that we could probably make that double the time. We packed a lot into that. It was a lot to digest, but we wanted to give you a lot too. So yes, totally, you did answer
Thank
the
you,
question.
Ruth,
I
for
need to
that.
yeah.
And again,
All
Ruth, I
right.
can't suggest enough. Take the class and you will get even more contemplation. Not to sound like an infomercial and to sound like an infomercial. The class will really build off of this idea. Um, so yeah, it's like we have a vision of like, yeah, we showed the class this matrix of like 9 boxes. Our class covered 2 of the 9. And that 9 is really 6,400. But to keep it easy and to keep our brains grounded, because there's a lot of grounding requirement, um, that's really, I can't say it enough. If this is resonating with you, the next step really is this class.
Because we also bring in so many different frames. We bring in gene keys, we're bringing in the Kabbalah, we're bringing in energy systems, we're bringing in frameworks that we've created because of both of our knowledge, and all of it. So it's not just one model. We're bringing a lot. So Courtney can't wait for the deep dive. We can't either. It's amazing. Anyways, so thank you for this. I think that we are complete for today. If you're listening to the replay, obviously, if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and we'll make sure to to follow. As we said, sign up for this course. And I'm also going to do a shout out for my workshop with the outer planet transits and how these are really life-changing times for everyone. And I'm going to help you locate what that means in your personal chart so that you can move within a better flow and grasp the opportunity. You know, the planets are doing their thing and they're always affecting us because it's energy. And we get to take advantage of the energy in the most beneficial way if we want to, or we can choose not to. And astrology for me, as well as gene keys, but astrology transits is what I really use to understand myself deeper and to understand and get kind of validation on my way in transformation as well, on a deeper level, so that I can move with it. And it brings me to self-love and compassion, because I understand that, oh, this is why these energies are so strong right now, and this is how I can empower myself through this as well. So that's why I loved working with astrology as well, and astrology transits. So shout out for that. That's March 3rd. And actually I had an early bird price and it ends today. I just realized with the full moon. So sanctuarywithinyou.com. You will find both on the first page, but /astrology is my astrology workshop, and /opening doors is our next course starting in April. And we have an early bird going on for that right now, as well as a payment plan. So that's where you can find us. Yeah. All right. Happy Virgo full moon. Yes, thank you. You're so welcome. Thank you both. Great conversation, discussion. Thank you, Anita. Thank you all so much. And take care of yourself. Allah, this full moon, care of your body, listen to your body, self-care, come into your heart, make a routine for yourself to love yourself more. How about that? Okay. Okay. Mwah. Bye, everyone.